all go get it.
Hello and welcome to our podcast, Digging Deep. I'm Michael Glassman.
And I'm Roberta Walker. We're two landscape designers who've been working in the field for 25 years at least.
And during this podcast, we're going to tell you all about our expertise and share stories.
We're going to talk about what went wrong and what went right and the best way to get around to getting your landscape in as far as environmentally, as far as money, as far as dealing with contractors. We're going to give you the straight scoop. That's what we're here for.
And whatever we can do to help you make and create a wonderful, usable environment for your own place.
That's right. Well, we're calling this rain, finally, here in Northern California after the driest drought in, they said a decade. We finally have rain.
We normally have 21 inches of rain, and last year we had 8.
Yeah, it's quite amazing, and it is something that we need. And so we want to talk about that because a lot of people think, oh, it's great, it's raining, but then they fail to think about turning off their irrigation system for a while.
Right. And so your sprinklers are going on in the middle of a rainstorm.
Exactly. And I hate seeing that. I just hate seeing sprinklers because remember, last year when we only had 8 inches, that's me. Well, I don't even have to say it. Look at our lakes. Look at our rivers. There's not much left. So if we continue to water when it's raining, that supply is continuing to dwindle.
So another recommendation, and we've talked about this before, but this would make sense, is it will come a time that everyone will have to be mandated to, and will probably be mandated to do it, is to get a different irrigation or sprinkler timer, one that is tied into the weather channels so that when it does, like for example, I have a Hunter HydroWise, and what happens is the minute it starts raining, my clock, my controller of my sprinklers shuts down. So if it was supposed to water on Monday and it's raining on Monday, it will automatically turn the sprinklers off. If it looks like there's more than a 50% chance of rain, it'll automatically shut the water off. So you don't have to be out of town and it's raining and know that your sprinklers are also watering.
Well, also, if you have an app like I do with the same Hunter, but Hunter's not the only clock that has that, you can be out of town and shut it down. And I shut mine down for a week. So you could also say, when to stop it, when to start it. But it's really important to notice, this is what, I don't know why they call taking care of your landscape or animals husbandry. But anyway, when we care for our landscapes and our gardens, we've got to be aware of everything it needs. And so water is wonderful. However, we're in for torrential rains and too much water is not good. So check your clocks, even if it means clearing away the cobwebs and opening the the face of it. Well, maybe it's in the garage. It's not bad, but do adjust your clock.
Right. That's important. And also another thing that's really important is you haven't had to probably worry about it, but check all of your, for drainage. If you have area drains, they look like what's on the bottom of your shower where the water goes through. Check to make sure they're not covered in leaves. That's one of the biggest problems with a lot of the cities. What happens is a lot of debris covers over the manhole covers and the drainage areas, and then you get these torrential rains and the water comes in and all of the manhole covers and all the sewer lines are covered over with leaves and debris, and the water doesn't drain, so the streets flood out. And that's one of the most important things. Also in your own landscape, you may have bark or leaves or rock or something that has just kind of matriculated on top of your drainage outlets. And so when it does rain, and if we get a tremendous amount of rain, it's just going to flood because they're all blocked up.
Well, you reminded me of our gutters. Now, if you're fortunate to have gutter guards, I have gutter guards, but they don't work. They're screens. They're not the expensive kind, but you reminded me because I'm going to have to get up there I'm not doing it today. I've had a really long day, but tomorrow it's going to be raining off and on, but to clean out your gutters, because if they're full of debris, and very often if you have a roof that's not concrete and not tile and it's composition, a lot of that, those little tiny bits of gravel get into the gutter, and that backs it up as well. And what happens is when it backs it up, the water will just flow over the sides. And in my case, I have not too far away, I have a under the house access. And if water gets down in there, it's under the house. It's not good. And it's everything, it stays wet down there. So because the rains are coming, do check your drains and also check your gutters, where the downspouts come down from the roof. And one more thing, I have cats. I have outdoor cats. I have one indoor cat, and I do have a patio, but when the rain comes down like crazy, it splashes everywhere. So what I do, it's a cheap and easy fix. I go get a roll of the heavy duty plastic from the paint department at the, hardware store,
Hmm.
and staple gun it up and make a little sunroom for them. So that's a cheap and easy way if you have outdoor cats or animals where, it's not cold right now. And even during the rain, it's not cold, but they like to get out of the water. So if you don't have a sunroom or a place, where they can shelter, just get a staple gun and some plastic and make them a little sunroom. They'll love it.
And while we're talking about things to do, we're heading into, and we are in fall, and there are certain fall chores that you can do. I mean, there's a lot of things we want to talk about in this podcast, but one of the things that I was going to say is, if you're thinking about doing, besides pruning, that's something we'll talk about later, but if you want to do some new planting, fall is one of the best times to buy fall color and shade trees that turn beautiful fall color, because some of the shade trees, they can do a myriad from a red to an orange to a burnt orange to a maroon or a purple. And you really can't tell from looking at the plant until it turns its color. So in the fall, if you go shopping for a shade tree that's going to give you fall color, the best time to do it is when they're starting to turn color.
That's right. And don't hesitate to take pictures around your neighborhood and take them to your local nursery and say, "What is this? I love this." They'll tell you
Right.
what it is. Yeah. So,
Exactly. And even if it's the same species, so for example, a Chinese pistache, and there's one that's called Keith Davies. If you go to the nursery, you might see 5 different pistache trees, same variety. But in those 5, some are more of a burnt orange, some of them are more of a gold or a yellow, some of them might be a dark red. Each tree reacts differently to the colors, so they're not all the same just because you buy the same specimen. And that's why when you go to the nursery, especially if you're looking for fall color, go and pick out your plants as they're turning, because that's what they're going to turn when you plant them in your garden. Whereas if you just buy, oh, I'm going to buy a Chinese pistache and expect it to be a certain color, you might be very surprised, because when it does go into fall color and you've never seen it before, it may just be a gold, and you go, I wanted red, not gold.
well, my Chinese pistache, I actually, when I drove in this morning and it was wet after the rain, my Chinese pistache is a glowing ball of red orange. It's absolutely fabulous. And chances are, if you do get a Chinese pistache, the Keith Davies is known to be, even more explosive. However, I found that they're much slower growing. I don't know if you found that, Michael, but chances are, whatever Chinese pistache you have, it's going to have beautiful fall color. And
Right.
let's say it's close to maybe a ginkgo or birch that go bright yellow. I mean, it's
Yeah.
absolutely stunning. So it's nice, it is nice for planting to plant in groups. But when it comes to trees, you can mix it up and think about what they do in the fall, and also think about the trees that do nothing, because it's nice once those beautiful leaves fall to have a backdrop of something green, evergreen.
Absolutely. So, I mean, those are the kind of things that people say, well, if each season, what should I be doing in the season? Well, planting in fall is a great time to do some of the planting, but it's also a good time to do some of your pruning and your cutting back of your perennials. But as I said, what I mentioned earlier is I like the fall because we've gone through a very hot summer where it went to 105, 107 degrees. And trying to plant during the summer, you stress your plants out. But in the fall, it's cooling down, and as we said earlier, we're actually getting rain. So it's a really good time to think about planting in the fall. You're not going to plant your perennials and see a myriad of colors, but I will tell you, even at the nurseries, some of the perennials are on sale because they're going out of bloom rather than in bloom, but you can get the best deals for planting your perennials in the fall, and then in spring they start blooming.
Well, fall's become my favorite time for planting, and I'll tell you why. Spring is beautiful, but where we are in Northern California, our window of spring has become so short that often we come out of the winter and we want to do spring planting, and 3 weeks later the heat comes on and pretty much withers everything. So fall, we have kind of a long stretch. If your plants go in now, they'll have a couple months to kind of start rooting in. They'll go through the winter. Once we drop below a certain temperature, they just kind of hold the fort down. But then come spring, they're going to think that they've been in for a whole year, and they haven't.
Right.
They've just been in for a few months. So fall is my favorite time to plant. And Michael, you are so right. I saw sales from the nurseries. Laura Petalum, Nandinas. These are things that have fabulous color, and they are evergreen, but they do change colors with the fall. So another thing, I have been wanting to do certain things in my yard. I need to redo these laser drip in a certain line, part of my yard. I can't even dig. But now that the rains have come, I kept thinking, as soon as the rains come, I'm going to be able to dig. As soon as the rains are here. So during the week after this weekend, it's clearing up. And if you have things that you want to plant, things that you want to change, this is the time to do it, because your soil should be much more workable than it's been all summer.
Absolutely, and she's absolutely right, because during the summer, besides the heat, the ground is like rock hard. Once you start getting the rains and it softens it up, it makes it much more pliable and easy for planting. I agree 100%. And yeah, fall by far is my favorite season, because you're right. I mean, used to be spring started in March, and we would get it, and it would stay in the 70s. There have been April and May where it's been 92, 98, and you start putting these plants in there and they just shrivel up and lay over.
Right. If you have a garden, now's the time to pull your tomatoes. And you might say, wait, they're still fruiting. But with this rain, they're going to get a mold. And if you don't pull the plants out, it's going to infect other plants. So this is the time where, even though there might be some green tomatoes left, pull them all out. It's time to do that in the garden. It's also a good time to plant your winter garden: lettuces, beets, Brussels sprouts, cauliflower, cabbage. You could have year-round garden, and the nurseries will sell what you need. They're not going to be selling things like cucumbers and peppers now. That's done. But they will be selling all your starts for your winter vegetables.
Do you pull those out, or do you actually rototill them or turn them into the soil?
Tomatoes you pull out, because you pull out, because chances are by now, this late in October, they already have powdery mold on them. If you look at the leaves, you'll see they're kind of dying out. So just pull them out completely and put them in your compost. And they'll work there on a new level. They'll be feeding the soil, not your beds. Now, if you want to feed your soil and your beds, a great thing to do right now is to scatter seeds for like crimson clover.
I was just going to say, I just bought a package of clover that they said seed it in, and then mix it. Then after it comes up, actually turn it over into the soil.
Right, that's the kind of thing, and fava beans, because then it brings oxygen to the soil. So they're known as cover crops, and there's lots of different types. One of my favorite places, if you have a vast amount of garden space and you don't want to buy these little packages, you could go to groworganic.com, which is Peaceful Valley Farms. They're located up in Grass Valley, and they sell bulk to farmers and to home gardeners. So if you don't want to buy small packages, you could buy a pound of this or a pound of that, a pound of wildflower seeds. So in the spring it comes up. So consider that. It's groworganic.com. There are other companies as well. This is just something that's fairly local to our area, I'd say, for Northern California. But you'll have a surprise in this spring with beautiful clover, crimson clover, white clover. If you're growing fava beans, you'll harvest them and you can eat the fava beans. And then your garden's happy too, because what you're doing is actually feeding it. And if you don't want to seed anything, and after the leaves come down, I mentioned this before, you could blanket your beds with leaves. It's full of nitrogen and microorganisms. Or I have a leaf chipper. We talked about that. So you can make
Right,
your own
right.
mulch.
And I think I mentioned before, I bought bags of worm castings,
Yeah.
just threw it into our raised bed, and then mixed them into the soil. And it was amazing how well everything did.
Oh, they love that. And vermiculture is, people think, oh, worms, they're going to be smelly. They don't smell. You could have a container with worms, and there's systems, they're plastic, and you put some coconut mesh or torn up newspaper, and you throw all your kitchen scraps in there, and they love to eat it. And they give you the beauty of worm castings and worm tea that you could put right into your garden. So we were talking, Michael and I, right before the show about the news and how, first of all, how expensive everything is because of the supply chain and whatnot, but also that it's going to continue. So the more sustainable, that you could be at home making your own compost, growing your own vegetables, it's the way to go.
Absolutely. And, the realization, and what Roberta had said, the realization is that we keep thinking, and I've got clients that have been putting off projects, i.e. like a swimming pool, and thinking that in the next year or so, the prices are going to go down. And unfortunately, they're not going to go down. They're probably going to go up. The only way that we would actually see like a swimming pool price go down is if they cut off the supply of water and you were on rationing of water. Then people wouldn't be putting in swimming pools as readily, because there's your supply of water would be used up. And so in the 90s, that's exactly what happened in California. We went through another drought, and we were on rationing, and the swimming pool companies were going out of business. So instead of the prices going up, they actually went down, the lowest I've ever seen them. But the minute that everything went back to normal, the prices just went sky high, and now they've doubled, tripled, and even more for a
Insane.
swimming pool. Yeah, they're insane.
It's
It's
absolutely insane. And pools, how many gallons? I mean, there's several hundreds of gallons of water that goes in the pool, right?
at least 10,000.
Right. And then when we have the temperatures that we have, the evaporation rate is huge. So,
I mean,
back
it's not
later,
unusual to see a pool that doesn't have a cover on it lose like 3 to 6 inches in the middle of summer per day. That's how much evaporation you get, because you've got this big expanse of water, and you've got 105-degree temperature beating down on it. It's going to evaporate. And you
it's,
can actually look at evaporation rates, and where you used to think, clients used to think it's a leak. It isn't. It's just evaporation.
yeah, we used to have, and we still do, have community pools. So if you're not prepared to spend $100,000 and wait the months to get a pool in, consider, joining your local YMCA or your public pool. There's some really nice ones in our area. So you might think about that, because it's not going to get cheaper, not for a while. And landscaping as well is not inexpensive anymore. Everything, and I think what I read, it's going to the supply chain and the people,
Yes.
the lack of people to unload these cargo, big boats and whatnot. So, and they say food is going up. So again, put your winter garden in, and also support your local farmers by going to the farmers market.
I agree. I agree. And even the nurseries, the prices of nursery plants retail has gone up. And a lot of it has to do with, again, the supply chain, as you were saying. Well, the problem is that as fast as they're growing them, That's how fast they're selling them, to the point where they're running out, in which case whatever they do have, they'll jack up the prices so that they can keep at least, enough money to make a profit and pay their employees. But that, I was talking to one of the local wholesale nurseries, and they're really nervous that they're going to run out of a lot of the plants that they're growing in the wintertime, because they said they're moving out so unbelievably fast this fall that they can't even keep up with it.
Right. Well, folks, there are seeds in packs, and that's the way to really economize, because a pack of seeds, well, I can't even plant all the seeds in one pack for tomatoes. My
Right.
goodness, I'd have to open a family business of tomato sauce. But seeds do just as well. Now, of course, the warmer things have to be started inside. You have to read the packet, but it's a good thing. If it's not something you've done, consider researching it. And there's so much available from books on the internet, YouTube channels about how to have a garden. If you've never had a vegetable garden, herb garden, they're going to show you step by step how to do it. And there's nothing that feels better than harvesting from your own garden.
That's true. That's very true.
Yeah, and so, yeah, as designers, both Michael and I are asked almost every time we work with clients, how much do you think this is going to cost? And I've gotten to the point where I can't even ballpark anymore,
No,
because
no.
everything's changing, and if you give a client one number and it comes in higher, you're giving them false hope.
Right. And what happens is you basically can tell them as a designer, I don't do construction anymore. And when I did, prices have changed and they fluctuate on a regular basis. A lot of the contractors are also, what's an interesting thing is they're starting, because they're so busy, they may not be able to start a job for 3 or 4 months, but they'll book the client, they'll give them a bid, and they'll basically say to the client, listen, here's the deal. I can't start your job for 3 months. If you sign with me, you put a small deposit down. But what I will do, while I'm waiting to start your job, I will actually try to start purchasing some of the materials, whether it be tile or natural stone or things like that. Because the biggest problem that we're finding is, okay, you wait 3 months for a contractor. Now they're ready to start your job, and they go to buy your materials, and they're all sold out and they can't get it. So they're telling you, I can't get some of your materials for 3 or 4 months. What they're now starting to do is say, okay, if you sign with me, in 3 months I'll be starting, but what we're going to do is I will give you the receipts and everything. I'm going to try to buy as many of your materials and store them early, so that when we do start your job in 3 months, we have the tile, we have the wood, we have this. It's been stored so that we don't have to come back to you and say, okay, yes, we can start your job, but your fireplace is delayed, your barbecue is delayed for another 4 months, so you're going to be without. And that's the one thing that I have to say, which is great. A lot of the contractors are doing that. They're buying the materials, or starting to try to buy the materials in advance, as well as try to go for permits way ahead of time, so that when they do start the job, again, so that they don't have to wait a month to get a permit, they've got permit in hand, they've got materials in hand, and they can just run with your job.
That's true. My contractors are doing the same thing. Also, after January, into the new year, 2022, all the rock and material prices are going up. So
Yeah.
they're stockpiling it now, and these are things that you need to be aware of as a homeowner, because so many people are disappointed by having to wait. But I'm here to tell you, if you don't wait and you don't put your name down with a deposit, you're going to wait even longer.
Right. And the other thing is if, for example, let's say you're planning on doing a travertine or a slate or a brick patio, and you want to do the backyard at a later date, maybe 6 months down the line. My recommendation, it's what I tell my clients: buy all the materials now. Put a 10% overage or a 15% overage, even if you're not going to do the back patio or the front patio for another 3 to 6 months. Buy the materials. And the reason I say that is not only availability, but dye lots change. So for example, if you're buying like a porcelain tile and you're using the same porcelain tile in the front, but you're not doing it for 6 months. 6 months go by, you go to buy it. A, it's not available, or B, they've changed the dye lot so it looks completely different. And then you have the tile in the front and the tile in the back look totally different, even though it's the same tile. So what I tell people is, even if you're not going to do it for a while, buy the materials, store it in the garage, store it on the side yard, put a big tarp over it. And then when you're ready to do it, you know you've got the same material and you're not going to be looking at it going, oh my God, that's a totally different color than I thought. And I wanted the same color as it's in my backyard.
These are all in the planning. Well, I'm here to tell you that when we're finished the podcast, I'm going to go check my gutters and go get some plastic and start sheeting my cats in before Sunday, where that's the day after tomorrow. We're in for a very big rain here in Northern California. So you have tomorrow, today and tomorrow, if you need to batten down your hatches as well. Check your gutters, check your drains. If you have any outdoor furniture, I pulled all my pillows in from that.
Me too.
Do that as well, or else they'll be sopping wet. I mean, outdoor furniture, yes, could take the weather, but they'll be sopping and then they'll get moldy if they don't dry out. So, pull all that and consider, if you can't afford and I don't have them, the expensive covers for each chair and each table, I just buy the really heavy duty rolls of plastic and I tuck it in, under the chairs and whatnot. And like I said, I said this last week, it becomes my cat's little conservatory, their little solar room. They love that. But it also keeps the table dry and the chairs. So it's all about rain. It's all about prices. It's all about life, and it's all about gardening. Is that right?
Yeah, you're right. And it's all about planning in advance for everything now. And you know the old saying, an ounce of prevention is worth 2 of the cure.
Yeah, boy, that's
an old saying.
That's an old saying, but it is true. And we're here to help out in any way possible with what we know. And like we said in the beginning, we've been through it, and we've also been through floods, we've been through heat, and we want to help you prepare in this ever-changing world, which is life on Earth. So, yeah. I'm Roberta Walker.
I'm Michael Glassman, and we are Digging Deep.
Thanks for joining us.